Hey guys, it's Abby. Oh my god, I'm sorry. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, welcome back. If you're wondering why I'm doing a live show instead of like a nice polished review video that I edited and things, it's because my editing software doesn't work right now and I'm trying to figure it out without having to go to the store because I can't currently afford to pay to fix anything. So I'm trying to figure it out. But for now, I'm just doing things live. It is the StrikeBackVideoAthon day 8. It's been a bit, and I'm so excited. It's such a cool thing. Like, I'm certainly not monetized, and I don't think I ever will be. But it's important that we stand up. But it's also just kind of nice, like everybody making videos together for a month. It's really cool, and then I really like that there's themes. I'm really impressed that G Swizzle Books, that bookie, and Ben Sanders, the people who created this, and they're linked below, were able to come up with 30 different like themes for each day. That's crazy difficult, and they're really good themes. Today, it's actually beautiful book cover buys. I love doing those. I love having beautiful books. However, I literally just finished Eve the Awakening, and I need to talk about it because it is so good. And I knew I was going to do a review. I was like, oh, I'll probably just do it tomorrow. And then that was like when I was like 100 pages from the end. And then I read and I was like, I need to do this now. It's so good. It's by Jenna Moreci, who is a YouTuber and a self-published author. Her YouTube channel is linked down below, and I have Tell Her a Story linked down below, and I'll tell you about Tell Her a Story first. She is a small YouTuber I am putting the spotlight on today. Her videos are so good. The reviews, I think, was she pretty new? A few months, I think. She might even, her channel might be the same age as mine, but she even came up with a boy band song tag, which is so fun and cute. I may do it. It's a fun one. And I really like her reviews. I think in some ways we have different opinions on books, and I really like watching those reviews because it makes me feel like, oh, like that's why that book was written. Because sometimes you read something and you're like, this is trash, nobody should read it. But sometimes you read something and you're like, I didn't like it, but I can respect if somebody else did. And I think that she walks that line where it's like sometimes we do have the same opinions, but sometimes it's like, oh, I respect what she's saying. It's not for me, but I respect it. And I really, really like that. Now, onto the positive thing, Eve the Awakening. I love this book. Go to Amazon, just type in Eve the Awakening, it'll pop right up, or you can go through Jenna Moreci's website. You can find her website through her YouTube channel. You can probably just even Google her name. She's pretty well known, and buy this book. It's so good. Now, if you're friends with me on Goodreads, it did take me a little bit to read it. I will say, I didn't know this until I started my channel and started using Goodreads, which I started using last year. I'm a really slow reader. I did not realize that, but I think I just read like 10 books at once, so it takes me a while to get through each individual one, even though that's my excuse at least. This book, okay, my advice for reading this book, I will review it, but first I need to tell you my advice. My advice is clean your whole house, get all the work you need to get done, meal prep some things for the next week, and then just sit down and read this book. You will not want to put it down. It is so good. By page 4, I was hooked. I was absolutely hooked. And it's just nonstop action, adventure. There's some fantasy and sci-fi elements to it, which I loved. I don't always love sci-fi, but this I felt like it was it takes place in the future. I think it's 2087, right? I believe it's 2087. And I loved the future that she wrote because it made sense where humanity was. I hate in futuristic times when, like, I don't know, it's just like people are like eating pills instead of food, and it's just like that doesn't make sense. But they have these things called scratch pads, and they're kind of like personal computers or iPads. I guess they're closer to iPads, but they're like a notebook, a Kindle. You can watch TV on them. You can do homework on them. They're like an even better computer, right? And then they have like these cubes that are like the memory almost. Like it makes sense in the book. And then they have something that they call HV, which is television, but it's holovision, right? Because they're holograms, and I loved that. And she doesn't even explain really. I mean, you see the HV, and then they just start calling it HV, and it's so similar to a television that you don't even have to have it really like spoon fed to you. And she doesn't spoon feed things, and I loved that as well. She just introduces them, and they make sense, and she knows that they make sense, and so it works. And I loved that. I love when people realize that the people reading their books are intelligent beings, and she definitely does. I also want to say there are just so many wonderful action things, and there are a few like tropes that she either expands to make sense and like really makes them like good, or they're in there and it's like just like a fun little nod to action and what makes it so fun. And there's a lot of tense, stressful scenes. When I was about 100 pages out, and I had both the dogs, and they were both just pacing and whimpering because they could tell how stressed I was reading the ending of this book, and I was like going nuts. I was like so mad at them. I was like, "Can you just calm down? I'm like already stressing, and then you're just doing this." And but that's where was I going with that? But that's why it's so good, is that it really made me that emotional, and I felt like the action was so easy to follow. There's nothing worse than reading a book with a lot of action scenes, and you're like, "Wait, what just happened?" Or they're really slow, and it's like, "Okay, that was boring." They're so fast-paced and so good, and at some points, in the best possible way, I felt like I was watching a movie because I just knew exactly I was just able to visualize everything, and I was so excited. I'm also a big fan of Jenna Moressi's YouTube series about writing, and I'd recommend, even if you're not an author, just checking it out because they're really fun and entertaining. Um, but I was worried. She always talks about how she's an overwriter, and she's a professional, so I shouldn't have been worried about this. But this book is over 500 pages. It's like about 547 pages. And so I was like, oh my God, it's like one book, 547 pages. It's going to be dense. And it wasn't. Everything in there needed to be in there, and everything like had a purpose, but it was still interesting. It wasn't just like, oh, obviously this is going to be needed in the future. It was like, oh, that thing that happened, now it makes sense. And I loved that. I thought that was really, really good. Um, I really cannot recommend this book more. I'm simultaneously really excited and really upset. She has a new book coming out in April, I believe, called The Savior's Champion. I'm so excited for it. It's going to be a great story, I think. But this story is part of a series, and she started another series, and hello, I need to know. I need to know. I need to know. I will say I do like how it wrapped up. I felt like it wrapped up. Like, I definitely want to read the next book, but I'm also not like dying. I'm just like slightly dying. Just like slow and painful, not instantaneous, I guess. Um, I loved this. My biggest complaint. Oh, actually, I had something that I thought was a complaint, but I didn't even tell you guys what this book was about. I'm sorry. I'm just so excited. And I can't like magically edit things to make it make sense. Okay. So this book is about Eve. She is something called a chimera, which is a person who in the future, there's just these genetically better humans, and scientists are trying to figure out why they're better. They heal faster than us, they're stronger than us, and they can do a thing called melting, which is essentially telekinesis, but there's limitations, and you have to work to get better, and some people have more natural talent, but you still have to practice it, and I love stories where you have to practice, because I'm a musician, so practicing's good. And so you they're kind of just these better people, and scientists are still trying to figure out why they came to be and what's different about them. And there's a lot of hate towards them, and so a lot of chimeras live in not hiding, but they just hide it from others, like in the closet. Essentially, um, it really felt like an allegory for anything that other people can judge you for that you can easily hide. So maybe, and well, even with, obviously you can't hide your race, but they have like these slurs, and I guess anything people can consider bad, they will use a slur for, but they even have slurs for the chimeras. They call them chimes, and it's like this really rude thing. They're like, "Oh, you stupid chime." And it's just like very disrespectful. And so it's about this girl who is a very strong chimera, and everybody in the town she lives in, which is San Francisco, knows. And this starts in the beginning, people know. And then she's like, cool, I'm gonna go to college and nobody's gonna know. And it's about her going to college and kind of, she's lived a lonely life before then, and so trying to find some friends and trying to find her way in and figure things out. And it's so good. And some things that I absolutely loved. Her classes, A, make sense. B, are interesting, and C, are in the book. She goes to class, you get to know her professors, and I love it when books, it's like, why set it in a school if you're not going to have the people go to school? And she definitely goes to school, and it definitely helps her out. Another thing that I loved, that was the thing that I had the gripe with, was there were a few girls in there that were just kind of like mean girls who were stuck in high school, and I was like, you know what? They're in university. They need to grow up. And then I remembered all the girls I knew. Fortunately, I didn't live with them, but I did know them in my dorm housing thing, and they were stuck in high school. Not everybody, but like I knew specific girls who were, and it was just like, are you kidding me? Like, we're adults. Like, let's have fun. And so I did like that she had those kinds of people in there. And I just thought that was like a really interesting thing to put in. And I totally like had just blocked those people from my memory. And then after I was like, I realized, and I was like, oh yeah, so there are definitely people who suck everywhere. Another thing that I didn't totally love is one of the girls, and one of the girls is like this diamond heiress or jewelry empire heiress, and I did like her, and she has this thing where she just like gives jewelry to her friends because she's like really rich and she can do it. I liked that. I thought that was a really cool character thing, and it kind of shows how these people are just so Eve has grown up in squalor, she is incredibly poor, and then these people are just like, oh, like here's a diamond necklace, whatever. One thing I didn't like was that they were at lunch, and this girl comes up to her and she's like, hey, and she kind of like acts like she's gonna blackmail her, and then the girl just gives her a diamond from her purse. And I felt like either A, she should have just taken it off her body, or B, she should have maybe they should have been in like their dorm room and she had like a safe in there. That would have made more sense than just having like jewelry like in her bag that was worth a lot. So that's my only, like, literally that one scene that was like half a page was my only complaint out of this whole book. This book is so good. I really cannot recommend it more. I loved it. My favorite character, I do love Eve, but I think my favorite was Armand. Like, in the book, he's 17, but if he were 5 to 10 years older, he would be my book boyfriend. But only if I pictured him 5 to 10 years older. But he's so sweet and wonderful, and he's just wonderful from the beginning to the end. He's just a sweetie pie. I love him. I will say there's also a romance in here. If you're not a huge romance fan, you might like this one. So my 2 criteria to see if romance is a good thing is A, do I like it? Do I think they have a healthy relationship? And I definitely did. Their relationship was one of the most real relationships I've ever read. Like, there was no like weird drama. Like, all they did was like each other, and then they like talk about it, and then like communication, and then they have issues kind of based off their communication, but it's more just like, but it's not drama. It's just like normal, like you're in college, you're busy type stuff. And then my other criteria is, could the books, especially, I mean, obviously if it's a romance novel, it's a little different, but for an action-adventure sci-fi, can the book stand without the romance? Yes, it can. But the romance added something to it, because the book totally could have, it was so good, even if they were just friends, it would have been fine. But the romance really, gave it a little bit more oomph, why they really wanted to fight for each other, and also, which, that sounds like a spoiler, it's not what you think. But also, it really kind of lightened it a little bit. This book is very intense. There are a lot of battles and a lot of just like twists and turns. Like, there were some good twists, let me tell you. It's just like, what? And so having a romance there and having these burgeoning friendships there really, really like helped to create just this grounding. It was a very grounded book. There's so many fantastical, adventurous parts that it really felt grounded in reality, and that's what I loved about it. Um, I really, really would recommend it. I think if you're a fan of action adventure, sci-fi, young adult, new adult, um, I think if you like boarding school stories, even though it's university, it's kind of the same thing. Oh, another thing I loved was that she's in this really fancy dorm room and everybody's rich, and then she still has a roommate. And I just thought that was kind of funny. Like, you're rich and you still have to have a roommate. That sucks. That, too bad for you. But if you like, I don't know, violence, it's not super gory. Like, if you don't like gore, I think you could still read this. I think, like, I get nightmares really easily, and I never got a nightmare from it. I will say, though, it is stressful. Like, the whole time you're on the edge of your seat, like, wait, what's going on? Wait, what? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So if you get stressed out easily, you might just want to read it really fast. I loved it though. I would really recommend this. And yeah, if you like books, read this one. It's a good one. It's a good egg. I seriously can't recommend it more. I loved it. I I just think it was so, so good, and I don't think I have anything more to say other than the characters. That's another thing. There is so much character development, and Eve, I love her because she could have very easily. She's kind of like um, this quiet. She's almost kind of like a hard character. Like she just is kind of like a hard. She has a shell, yeah, and a tough shell, and she could have very easily been one-dimensional and just like, "Oh, this bad thing happened to me and now I'm tough." But she really expands on it and explains it, and you really get to feel for Eve, and she really opens up throughout the book. Like, she's really a very open person, and I loved that. And then every single other character, you really get to know them well, and you really get to like them. There's one character who I love, and I don't wanna say their name because it is a bit of a spoiler, but once you get there, I think you will realize who I'm talking about. Um, and I think it's pretty obvious who it is. Like when you meet them, you're like, oh, I know what's gonna happen here. But I just loved the character development and how plot driven the story was. I like character driven stories. I really enjoy them, but I love plot driven stories. Like, give me some adventure. I two-dimensional character, like, if a book is fast-paced, I don't really care that the characters are two-dimensional. But if a book is, like, really, really boring, well, I find it boring if there's no action at all. But I think this book really mixed the two together perfectly. And the length, once again, was perfect. I was so nervous, especially once I realized it was part of a series. I was like, this is a thick book. Like, this is big. But I really think it was the perfect size, and I just want the second one to be done. Ugh. That's my only thing. I would recommend, maybe if you have a ton of stuff on your TBR, wait until the second book is released, and then maybe you won't hurt as bad. Although I'm sure the second book is going to end in a similar way, and you're going to be like, wow, I need the third one now. But I'm so excited for this. Go ahead, and also her new book, The Savior's Champion, the cover has been revealed. It's about to get published, self-published. It's about to be ready for purchase, and I would recommend checking out that as well. I am so excited for The Savior's Champion. I think if it's as good as Eve, we're in luck, and it seems like it's going to be even better and even more heartbreaking, which, like, I don't know if I can handle it, but I'm going to try. So please go read this book, do yourself a favor, and I hope you have a wonderful day, week, month, year, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Oh, now I have to stop.